Chris is a writer and web designer. He is no stranger to the paranormal, a fact that wasn't easy for him to accept at first.
Earlier in my life, I don't think I thought very much of it at all. My father was an atheist, so I really did not have much of a background for this. And it caused some consternation for me, really, starting out, because I didn't want to believe it myself. It took me a while. In fact, I suffered some serious depression over it at first. It took me a while to deal with that.
Chris has no doubt that the building he's lived in for more than 2 decades is haunted.
The building I live in is in the Oaklawn area. It's one of the older buildings in Oaklawn. I can count at least 5 people who have died in that building. So I don't know if that's creating some, vortex or whatever the word would be. It's creating some sort of energy level.
Whatever the source, the occurrences in Chris's home seem to begin shortly after he suffered a serious injury in the mid-1990s.
In 1994, I fell down a flight of stairs in my house, and I had suffered a serious skull fracture and would have died if my friend Ron next door hadn't checked on me. I had gone to bed, but I woke up and I was very thirsty. I wanted some water, and it's a 2-story condo. So the last thing I remember is walking to the edge of the platform, the top of the stairs, and I have a vague sense of the falling sensation as well. The next thing I remember is waking up in my bed again with a serious headache. But the big question was, how did I get back upstairs, which is where Ron found me a day and a half later.
Seriously injured and barely conscious, Chris was in desperate need of help. That help came in a most unexpected form.
I have a vague, misty memory of someone like otherworldly helping me back up the stairs. I just kind of got this image in my head of this man or whatever it was in white clothes, white robes, was helping me up the stairs. Then after we got up the stairs, there were 2 of them, and they were helping me into bed. And I even made some drawings about it later to try to remember it. They were wearing hoods, though, so I really couldn't, see the details.
For almost 2 days, Chris lay in bed, drifting in and out of consciousness. A neighbor became worried and decided to check on him.
Chris, it's Ron.
He came over actually and saw me in bed and thought, oh, you must have the flu or something. He pulled the covers off of me slightly and noticed that I had been bruised all up and down my right side. And he said, this doesn't look good. What happened to you? And I said, I don't know. I couldn't remember much. My brain was not functioning very well at the time. So he took me to the doctor. She did an x-ray of my head, and I ended up in the hospital in ICU for, I think, a week or more.
In spite of having been given only a 50% chance of survival by doctors, Chris made a full recovery and was eventually able to resume his normal routine. He soon realized, however, that things at home were far from normal.
About a year after the fall, I was sitting in my living room and I saw somebody walk by. It looked like they walked right through the window to the outside. Then someone came through a mirror, like from an adjacent wall. Once I got a clear focus on it, of course, it all disappeared. That was disturbing to me, again, going back to my religious upbringing, or lack thereof. I didn't know how to work with that, because I didn't really want to buy into it so much.
Although he had experienced it firsthand, Chris found it difficult to believe that he had actually seen ghosts in his home. Vague remembrances of otherworldly beings was one thing, but witnessing 2 full-body apparitions in broad daylight was quite another. All doubts were erased a few days later, however, when a visiting friend saw them too.
she came over, and the first thing she said was, "Who are these men walking around in your dining room?" I didn't even mention that I had seen them. I said, "Well, I don't know. What do they look like?" And she described one as being tall and thin and having black hair. And then she said, a shorter guy, a little bit older, with sort of reddish hair. I said, "Yeah, they're there. I've seen them too."